In this video, we'll be making this figure with an Ender Pro 3 printer from scratch. Now, if you don't know what this is, well, it's widely known as Rabbit Hole, which is actually the name of this very catchy / viral song created via Vocaloid. Open brackets, it's Japanese. By the way, you may not want to know the lyrics. No, stop going to Google. Stop it. Don't go to that search tab. Anyways, after the song was released, a creator called Cat Station made this beautiful animation. Very eye-catching, cute, and... oh wait, is that blood? Anyways, it was damn cute, which means I want to make it. Let's don't get into details. First thing to do is to pick a scene from the animation. Okay, this looks nice. Done. Next, we move on to sculpting. Now, I didn't film myself sculpting the base of the body, but it's made of basic isosphere, which is not too complicated. For the hair, I always start with one hair and duplicate onwards. For the tied hair, I use the cone as a basic shape and bevel the rim until it looks like an unedible disoriented ice cream cone. Kill me. And using a snake hook, we make the basic shape of our hair. After finishing one side of the hair, duplicate and adjust for the opposite side of the hair. Let's implant some rabbit ears to our skull. Same way you make the hair, we use the curves for the bunny ears as well. Using sculpt mode, let's give one of the ears a slight nudge to make it asymmetric. After, let's move on to the torso and start with the collar. Or collar. It's probably collar. Edit the cylinder mesh to look like a ring and extrude the face with the bottom base larger to make it look like a sliced cone. Wait, I just noticed that I could have started from cone. Anyways, I deleted one vertex to make it look like a collar and finally used sculpt mode to widen it. For the suit, I sculpted an isosphere to use as a guideline and manually make the mesh with the snap tool on. There's probably a better way, I'm pretty sure. So after manually modeling the cloth with extra 1,000,000,000% needless effort, I used sculpt mode for minor changes and moved on to the shirt. Starting from a flat plane, I edited it into the shape of the shirt by snapping the vertex to the face and subdivided it into parts. I did this so that the mesh now has more vertices that I can use pulling in sculpt mode to make flexible deformation. After setting the plane in the right place, we just go to the modifier tab and find the... yeah, there we go. The solidify tab and give it some thickness. Let's do the little stuffs for now, like the pink rubber band around the torso or so-called the cheap Asian corset. This can be done by simply using curves and bezier. Next, using a few triangles, let's make some bow ties and her hair tie, while sipping a Mai Tai, baking a pie flavor pie. Alcoholism. Now let's make the hairband. The hairband has a heart on it, so let's make a quick heart by extruding the vertices. Oh wait. Ta-da! That's not a heart. It's alright. Things like this can happen in sculpting 2D drawings into 3D. And whenever such event occurs, just drag this and drop it on top of the mesh. Boom, and now it's a bunny. It's a bunny. Say it's a bunny. Say it. Now let's cut out some parts using the Boolean modifier and make simple hands as shown in the picture. Then we smooth all the parts out. When smoothing out the face, I try to keep the nose line as sharp as possible. Let's add some miscellaneous accessories, and lastly, let's move on to making the assembly part. Never mind, I forgot the heart-shaped hole on her torso. And lastly, let's move on to making the assembly part. Never mind, I forgot to add the crack onto the wall. And lastly, let's move on to making the assembly part. Now that the model is done, we disassemble the part. Why the hell did I assemble it in the first place? And align all the parts onto a plane so it's easier to print. Let's take a preview of the print and do the actual printing. After printing, let's use 120 sandpaper. Oops, I don't know how to read. Now let's use 120 sandpaper to sand the parts. This is crucial since printing parts with Ender Pro 3 leaves the parts with deposition texture, and we don't want that there. After sanding the parts, we use a blow dryer to deform some of the parts. This is essential since when printing with relatively cheap printer, the parts doesn't always come out the way you expect them to be. Meaning some parts that should align may not align to each other. So by adding heat to the misprinted parts and adding pressure onto it, the part deforms itself so that it could fit as it should be. By the way, these are shorts. I've had comments asking why am I wearing underpants? These are shorts. The name gives it. Shorts. At this point, there was a modeling error cause me dumb. And I had to make a hole in the wall part. And when that was done, we moved on to painting. Every time I deal with FDM printed parts, the first thing I do is adding a layer of primer. There are several reasons why you should add primer, but in my case, it's mostly to cover up that deposit texture of the parts. My routine is adding a layer of rough primer first, then sanding it with a soft sandpaper, then adding a layer of a softer primer.
The first one was used with Mr. Surface 500. This time we're going to use Mr. Surface 1000. Okay.
By the way, primers are harmful to your respiratory system. So I always wear this mask to protect myself and also imitate Bane from Batman.
Oh, Batman. I was born in the darkness. I have no friends.
Spraying primer onto big parts like this wall takes forever. So instead of using primer, we use gesso for big parts. Gesso is basically like a primer, but it's not toxic and it's hydrophilic. I love that word, hydrophilic. Now simply spray the parts with the corresponding colors, then after that we go into details. I've never used a brush so thin before and it was hard. Like you can't even see the brush clearly from there. It's like brush for ants if ants have, I don't know, artistic mind. Anyways, I used the brush to paint the wall details and the face and put them all together with the super glue. We are nearly done. Oh, levitation. After putting all the parts together, check some places that needs additional painting. And the rabbit hole figure is finally finished. This figure took me a while to make cause in the past I've made simple figures like Bob's Pebblehead or Animal Crossing. I mean, like it literally has a spear for a hand. But this one has relatively more details, more hairs, more parts, an actual eye and a mouth. So yeah, it was hard. There are some flaws, like you could see some of the parts texture under the paint, but I guess that's one of the downside of using a cheap printer. But overall, I'm very happy with it. I mean, it's my third print after all. You know, I'll get better, right? Right? I tried using it as a bookend. I mean, the figure is made out of plastic, so it's very light, but yeah, it worked. But ain't no way I'm gonna use it as a bookend. Bookend? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you, for somewhat reason, want to print this, I left a link in the community tab, which will direct you to Google Drive with the Blender file. After downloading the Blender file, you can digitally paint it or, you know, change it the way you want. You can mingle with it, or you can buy a haptic suit for thousands of dollars and touch it, you weird creep. Anyways, this was Korean Butter. And I will come back with a new thing to create. Leave a comment on what I should make next, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao. That's Italian. You can say bye-bye. Adios. 再见.